So, as we're exploring, as we're thinking about things that can impact us, one topic I want to explore today is the idea of stumbling your way to success. Now, when I mention that, for some of you, you might have gotten a visual for that. You might have gotten the idea of like what it's like to kind of stumble around and what it's like to try to kind of figure things out. Because the reality is, as vegan business owners, as entrepreneurs, as aspiring entrepreneurs, or even someone who's on their second or third business or second or third location, the idea is many of us are constantly in these discovery modes. Many of us are in these exploratory modes. As we run a business, we're constantly ebbing, flowing, and being flexible in that process. And what it requires for many of us to feel like we are kind of stumbling around in the dark. We're trying to find that light switch, make sure we don't stump our toe, and we're trying to find our way through a scenario where we don't really know how to maybe get to where we want to go. We know it's possible. We know it's going to be amazing when we get there. We know it can make an amazing impact on our community and the world when we get it done. But the challenge is starting from where you are today and where you want to be when you think about the dream of your business, the dream of the impact of your business, or what you hope to accomplish with your business. That in between piece is what I'm talking about. That experience or that journey where we all kind of have to find our way is what I'm talking about today. And the reason I want to bring that up today and talk about this is because sometimes I feel like when you hear people's stories, when you hear about what they've done and what's been kind of their success story or what's been their secret to success, I think sometimes we paint too big of a pretty picture. Too much of this concept of like, oh, I knew I was going, I knew it was going to be like this. And yeah, we had some challenges, but this is how it was. And what tends to happen is we maybe kind of brush over the history of our businesses to kind of hide some of those challenges that we had, some of those stumbling moments. And what I want to make sure today is that as many of you might be feeling like you're stumbling right now because of everything that's going on in the world, or maybe just stumbling because that's just a part of it, that I want to kind of recognize and pull the cover off of these like stories of great success and talk about the idea that success isn't always pretty. That process that it takes for you to get there, the things that happen along the way, the things that you may experience may not always be the best moments in your business, may not always be the things that you're dying to shout from the rooftops, whether they're difficulty that you had, whether you maybe didn't do it the way you thought it would be, or maybe it's even as basic as, you've been working the last 3 days in your pajamas. And if someone turned the camera on you, they would be surprised. The idea is that sometimes it is a little gritty. Sometimes we're doing a lot of bootstrapping. And what I want to say to you today, or remind you today, is it's okay. If you are sitting there right now in your pajamas watching me, and you've been working since 6 a.m., it's okay. Now, do I want you to get better at that? Do I want you to get out of those pajamas? Yes. But what I also want to do is not shame you or make you feel bad for understanding that this process is a little bit challenging. And at times, it's going to be you flexing, figuring it out, getting better over time. And I want to make sure that we kind of remind ourselves that we're not trying to be this perfect picture. Yes, sometimes when we tell the story, it will sound finessed. But what I want to make sure is that when you live in the reality, when you live in the reality of running your business day to day, there are going to be deadlines you miss. There are going to be emails you forgot to do. There's going to be times that you get nervous during a presentation. There's going to be times that you forget to do something. And the idea is we have to be in a place where we're willing to understand that if you're trailblazing, if you're doing something you've never done before, you have to give yourself that space and time to stumble through it, to get better and better. It's kind of like riding a bike for the first time. When you go on the bike's all wobbly and you fall into the side and maybe you even fall a couple of times, but eventually it becomes smooth. Eventually, you become really good at it. And eventually, you almost never forget to do it. So that's what I want to remind you of today as you're moving forward this week. And maybe if you've had some setbacks. The other thing is, I want to do some celebrations. I want to make sure that you don't just celebrate the success that you achieve, the good things that happen, the actual things that you accomplish, but I also want you to celebrate the resilience that helped you get there. Because what happens is, for many of us, when you stumble, you have to get back up. There is a process where sometimes you stumble and you just sit there and go, oh goodness, what am I going to do next? That's a difficult moment. But for some of you out there, you found a way to get back up every time, to get back up and try again. You decided to come into work today and be ready to go and make it happen. And what I want to do is make sure we recognize those moments and celebrate and support you, knowing that resilience is a real skill and it is something that you've continued to develop over time. Maybe the first couple of times you had a setback, you had to sit on the sidelines for an hour, for a day, for a week. But over time, you've gotten better and better. And when you have a setback, you found your way back up and into the game again quickly. You found a way to move forward quickly without that setback keeping you from achieving your goal. And therefore, as you build that skill, as you get better and better at it, as you get, like we talked about in the bike example, it gets a smoother and smoother process. I want to make sure that you recognize that in yourself and celebrate it. You also talk about it. You also share those stories, and don't feel like we have to hide that moment when we just ended up flat on our face on something, that we can tell the world that, you know what? I ended up flat on my face, but I found a way to not only get up, to thrive, and get to this successful moment so that I could share with you my story and my experience. All right? The other thing I want to talk about today is knowing the difference between something that's a challenge versus a setback versus a correction. Because I think sometimes when we're stumbling around in the dark, when we're trying to figure out our business, when you're trying to figure out social media for the first time because you've never been on social media at all, and people are like, oh my goodness, you have to get on social media, and you're scratching your head trying to figure out how to do it. When you're trying to figure out how to do an e-marketing campaign or create your first video or go live for the first time, what happens is these new processes, these new experiences can feel like resistance. And what can happen is sometimes we put all resistance in one bucket. We put all the challenges we have in one bucket. So if you're having difficulty finding supplies for your product, if you're having difficulties updating your website, if you're having challenges where there's something happening in the shipping and when your product arrives to the customer, it doesn't arrive the way you expected it. And the idea is these things happen. And a lot of times they happen not because of something you did, just because this is the natural course of running a business. You have to do a little bit of problem solving. But what can happen is when you put all of those experiences in one bucket, they can all feel like resistance against you, against your business, and against your ideas. And what I want you to do is actually pull these things out and separate them, because most of them are not truly resistance. Most of them are really things that are just challenges. And these challenges are designed to help you create a better product. These challenges are designed to help you create a better customer experience. These challenges that you are experiencing are really the conduit or the tool that can help you do better in your business. And that's totally different than a setback. That's totally different than something that kind of kept you from moving forward. They're just speed bumps in a sense. And what I don't want you to do is confuse a speed bump as you're driving down the road to a dead end street. Very different activities, very different things. The other thing I want you to do is separate out challenges and allow them to be a part of your process. Allow them to be a part of your development, and understand that challenges are going to pop up, things are going to happen. But what you want to do is understand and recognize that, hey, this is a challenge. I got to dig a little bit deeper and get it done. versus a true course business product correction. Because a correction means the way you are headed needs to actually change. The type of product that you were going to offer may need to be different. The market is not supporting the way you've designed your business or your product, and now we need to make a change. That's totally different than the friction of going live on social media. That's totally different than I have to create my first YouTube video for my product, or I have to take photos of my product and I don't know how to do it. I don't know what camera I need. And if you can start separating these things that are happening, these experiences that feel like they're keeping you further and further from your success, I believe you can tackle them differently. I believe they will slow you down less. And by accepting and understand the difference between a challenge and a correction, I think you can move forward faster and stumble less as you move forward in your success. Now, let's talk about another kind of bucket of things that happen. There's also the setback. Now, a setback in my mind is completely different than a course correction. Because a setback means you're headed along. It's like you're heading down a path, you're driving, and we keep using driving analogies today. And imagine you were driving and then there's construction. So they're working on a road. So you thought you could go straight, but now you have to make a right. Now, just because there's construction, it doesn't mean you can't get to your destination. It means you can't get there. It's just that the way you thought you were going to get there is not going to work anymore. You have to find an alternative solution, an alternative path, alternative directions. Now, for many of us, we benefit from using apps like Google Maps, and all these map software where they reroute you, where they find a new way. And what I want you to get comfortable with in your business is understanding that you're going to have those scenarios and you want to build a skill where you know how to reroute yourself, how to reroute that process. Now, it may look like this in your business. You have a product, you're selling the product, and for some reason, sales are not what you thought they were going to be. So maybe you have to do some promotions. Maybe you have to go into new channels. Maybe you have to tweak the product and offer different options or versions of the option to get people to purchase. Maybe people aren't purchasing fast enough. People are purchasing, but the sales cycle is too long. Therefore, you need to make an adjustment so that people are purchasing faster. This may mean you need explainer videos for your product or service. This may mean you need to do some live videos to feature your product or your service. We're not going to get into all the tactical things that you should do. That's a different session for a different time. But the idea is when these setbacks hit you, I want you to get good at rerouting and knowing the difference between when you need to reroute, just find another way to get to your destination, versus those corrections, which really mean this is a time that we need to reevaluate why we're on this road in the first place. Does that make sense to everyone? Let me know in the comments if you're listening to this or watching this on one of our social media channels. Let me know if you can see that difference, because I really feel like as you move forward in your business and as you kind of walk this path, it's so important that you can separate out, like we mentioned earlier, the type of resistance you're feeling in the business and knowing if it is a complete correction, a setback, or just a challenge. And once you get those sorted out, I find that this experience of stumbling your way to success can feel less painful and can cause less over analysis of a process, over analysis of, am I doing it right? Over criticism of yourself and your business. Because if you take everything and treat them like corrections, often what we tend to do is criticize ourselves. I should have done it this way. I should have done that. I didn't do this. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I know that I should have done that? That's a really big one that we tend to do in our businesses. And what I really want to do is really take away that pressure and stress that we all tend to put on ourselves. And I find the best way to do that is to break these things up and really understand that, hey, that was just a challenge. something happened. You did an interview and you lost an internet connection, and it's okay. You just came back in and started the interview again. That's not a correction. That's not something that you did wrong. It's really just a challenge that popped up, and you have to get comfortable with overcoming those challenges as they come. And then, with all of that, because we're talking about these challenges, these roadblocks, these setbacks, all these things happening, is that I want to remind you how important it is to experience this journey as you're on it. Your road to success, and for some of you, there's the ultimate success. But hopefully, for many of you, there are successes along the way. There are milestones along the way that help you know you're on the right path, that help you know you've achieved something, that help you know that, hey, I've accomplished something that I thought was really, really mildly impossible, but I was very hopeful. And therefore, I achieved it. What I want you to do is make sure you enjoy the journey that you're on. Yes, you're going to be stumbling in the dark. Yes, it's kind of nerve-wracking if you've ever walked into a room, the lights are off and you're trying to find the light switch, or you're just trying to find something because you thought it was here without turning on the lights. You get this experience where it's like, I don't want to bump into something. I think it's here. Oh, I can't find it. What should I do? Should I go back to the light switch and turn it on? Should I keep moving forward? All of those things are happening. And what I want you to do in your business while that is happening is I want you to sit back and remember that this is a journey that you're on. And a part of this experience is what makes you a better leader. It's what makes you a better presenter. What makes you really a better version of not only you as the leader, founder, manager in your business, but it also helps you create a better product that helps and supports your community. So instead of being frustrated by the setbacks, instead of being maybe mildly upset at the challenges, what I want you to do is, if you can, readjust your mindset and start to reflect on this journey and enjoy it as an experience. To sit back and reflect, not just on the great things that happened, but reflect on the challenges that happened that help propel you forward. The challenges that actually happened that allowed you to discover that new product, that new service, the challenges that you experienced that allowed you to do more or better for your customers or for your community. Because if we truncate that experience and only focus on the successful moment, only that minute or that moment or that week where we shined in the light, I really feel like you're missing not only the whole experience, we're also not telling the full story, but I really feel like you're missing the point that these challenges become the thing that propels you forward. And I want your celebration to include not only the full story, but include the idea that when you were met with resistance, when you were met with something that kept you from maybe getting to that destination, that you rerouted, you relied on your resistance, and you found a way forward so that you continued not only to stumble around to success, but your journey to success was well worth it, was well learned, and that journey to success prepared you for not only that success, but hopefully your next one. All right. So that was your inspiration for today. That was your, hopefully, maybe even some motivation for today. And I'm also hoping today's session is maybe helping you if you're struggling a little bit, because we all have bad weeks. We all have times where things are like, what am I supposed to do? And what I want you to do is come back to this video, come back to this podcast and listen to it again. Because what I hope I've done today for you is helped you see through maybe that challenge is in front of you and realizing, like we said, it's really just a speed bump, not a do not enter, not a, I forgot the term I used earlier. It's not a place where you can't move forward. I'm hoping that when you hit a setback, you realize it's just a little bit of construction ahead and I need to reroute. And I hope from this session today, you realize that this journey that you're on, there's going to be some good and bad, But that or the tension or that resistance can really fuel you forward and can help you not only be your best, but offer some amazing opportunities and maybe future success for you. So, thank you again for joining today. I can't wait to check out the comments and hear from you if this one actually inspired you or gave you some additional ideas. And as always, I look forward to hearing and seeing you in our next live session. Take care, everyone.